Hi, welcome to my channel, Organized with Joy. Today I wanted to share with you how things were going in my intentional spending year. For those of you who don't know, in 2019 I did what I called my no spend year. It wasn't for everything. It was specifically focused on clothing and home decor, as I found those were the places where I was purging items the most, and the inflow seemed to come in faster than the outflow. So it was kind of a way to reset some of what I thought were negative spending habits. If you're interested in hearing about how that year went, I have two videos, a 1 and 2 part video, just sharing with you my experience. In addition to that, I have a blog, and I have a blog post for each month where I reflected on how each month went. So I'll link my blog down below, and you can read up if you want to see detailed information from each month of how that went for me. So at the beginning of the year, I actually found it really difficult to buy anything. I was struggling, like I might find something that I wanted or that I wanted to add to my wardrobe or to my home decor collection, and I would struggle to actually follow through on purchasing it. And I think it was just going through that year of spending fast. It was just felt weird to purchase something. But what I have found as the months have progressed on is that there are certain things where I feel like I am being super intentional and cautious about what I'm purchasing, but there are other areas where I'm struggling and I fall down a slippery slope of buying things because I can. My biggest struggle for sure so far this year has been the Poshmark app, and I talked about this in my no spend year reflections and my blog posts, and also when I did the videos talking about my whole year and how it went. I discovered Poshmark actually last spring, and for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's basically kind of like a social media platform where users can buy and sell their used clothing items, and you can follow different people, like follow their closets, and you can like clothing items kind of like you would like a picture on Instagram. And I was primarily using it to sell my own clothes that I was purging, but there were certain exceptions that I had in my rules for my no spend year where I could purchase items for certain events and whatnot. So I was using Poshmark to purchase those items. So while I was on the app, I was liking items. And so by the time January rolled around, I had several likes on this app. And so throughout the course of the last 2.5 months, I have purchased several of those items from my likes in the Poshmark app. The other struggle that I've had is stored up items. So these would be items that I needed to replace, or items that I had my eye on maybe for the last 6-9 months, whatever, and that I still was really loving and interested in adding to my wardrobe. So there were multiple items that I needed to replace. I have a black leather jacket that's like one of my standard jackets that I wear during the winter, and it was getting worn, and so I needed to replace that. There was like a hole forming in the arm. And then one of my basic white t-shirts got a stain. And I also had some athletic leggings that weren't fitting me right anymore. Half of my leggings were like the high-waisted ones and the other half were not. And I found that if I had to wear those ones that were not high-waisted, they kept slipping down and bothering me. And so I replaced those. I've gotten rid of those and replaced them with the leggings that fit me better. Another real struggle I had, I actually talked about this several times in different posts that I made with regards to my no spend year, and then I probably mentioned this in my no spend year reflection video, is this idea of the slippery slope. So like once I got over that tension of I can't buy anything and I bought something, then all of a sudden there was like permission there to purchase items. And so it became this slippery slope situation where I guess I quit questioning if it was okay to buy something, you could say. I particularly have found this with shoes. I officially admit I have a problem with shoes. I like shoes, and I now just need to be cognizant of that. So moving forward, just really paying attention and being more intentional with which shoes I'm bringing into my wardrobe. I do feel like now we're, 2.5 months in, I do feel like the purchases are slowing down tremendously. And some of that just has to do with, okay, now I've replaced those items that I was thinking about all year last year. I've purchased those items that were on my I really want this list. But in addition to that, I guess as I reflect back, I'm just a little bit disappointed in myself that I haven't been more intentional with what I'm bringing into my home. So I'm just like taking this moment as I reflect on all of this to reset, and as I move forward, make some changes. If you watched my video where I talked about my reflections of my no spend year or read any of my blog posts, you'll know that I definitely had a bigger problem letting go of purchasing clothing items versus the home decor. It was a lot easier for me to quit purchasing the home decor. And as we've moved into 2020, I have found that that category has been much easier for me to be intentional. And I've also found out and learned, which I think I learned last year during the no spend year, that I can really appreciate items in the store. If I find something in a store that I really think is beautiful and I like it, maybe before this no spend year, I would have purchased it because I would want it. I would want to have something beautiful like that in my home. Now I can just appreciate the beauty of it in the store and then decide to be okay with not bringing that into my home. Even though I felt like I maybe had failed a little bit in being as intentional as I wanted to be moving into 2020 with clothing purchases, I did have a couple of wins. And so for that, I'm proud and wanted to share. The first one was, unfortunately, back in February, I had to travel home for my grandmother's funeral. And typically this would be a situation where I would immediately go out and buy a dress for this occasion. But if you'll look back at my experience last year, I was going to purchase a dress for my son's graduation, and then at the last minute I decided that I could wear a dress that I already had in my closet. And one of the things I learned through that process is I do have several dresses, and I don't really wear dresses a lot. So I feel confident about the collection of dresses I have to just use those for all occasions. And I have enough, I think I have around 12 dresses. So I have enough that I have variety for different occasions. So I did, since I live in Texas, all of my dresses are short sleeved or sleeveless. So I did have to bring a blazer to wear over the sleeveless dress I chose to wear to my grandmother's funeral, but it did work. The other win I had is that I had a trip planned for the end of February, and in the past in my life, I really enjoyed going out and shopping specifically for trips. I would come up with different outfit ideas and then fill in the spaces that I needed new pieces to have the outfits that I wanted for that specific trip. But this year, I guess in part because I had purchased several new items, I worked with what I had already purchased or what I already had in my closet for this particular trip. There was one more thing that I wanted to share and talk about, even though it's very difficult to share this, but it is part of this journey, and so I wanted to be honest and open. And that is some of the reasons behind why I might have been tempted to purchase more clothing items than normal over the last 2.5 months. I learned last year in my no spend year that where I was tempted to shop and I wasn't allowed to shop, I would tend to replace that with other habits, whether they were positive or negative habits. Maybe that was watching Netflix, or maybe that was doing something creative, but either way, I was replacing that habit of shopping with something else. But as I reflect, especially over these last 2.5 months, I realize shopping is just like a negative way of handling stressors or difficult times in life. And so it's kind of a way of just numbing out or not really thinking about or participating in the feelings that I'm having. So over the last 2.5 months, I've had several personal difficulties in my life that have maybe led me to the place where I have sought out comfort in some way through shopping. I'm really thankful that I did the no spend year. I believe that it has opened my eyes to maybe some of the reasons behind why I have these spending habits, and so I'm thankful that I was able to learn this over the course of last year. Moving forward, I would really like to find healthy ways to deal with the stressors and the difficulties in life, just to become more aware in the moment, be more conscious of when I'm drifting towards doing some sort of negative behavior to deal with the stressors in my life. And I've come up with a plan to replace those negative behaviors with different behaviors, and one of them is journaling. I used to journal a lot a while back, and I'm not even sure, I feel like it just kind of trailed off over time, but it's a great way to process your feelings, is through writing out what you're feeling and why you're feeling those feelings. So I would really like to get back to journaling when I feel that pull to want to do something that isn't as healthy of a response. I also really believe in meditation and prayer as a way to refocus your energy and refocus your mind onto something positive and good. So moving forward into this year, I would like to truly be more intentional with what I bring into my home. And the first thing I would really like to do is to maybe come up with more concise rules. So in my no spend year, I sat down before that year and came up with what my rules were for the year. And I think I need to come up with more specific and practical rules I have for my intentional spending year as well. In addition to this, I plan to cut way back on looking through the Poshmark app. I plan to, at this point, I feel like I don't really need to bring new pieces into my wardrobe, but moving into the future, if there are things that I need to purchase, whether that's to replace something or I see, a hole in my wardrobe, I just need to specifically focus on looking for that and not just scrolling through the app at various brands and liking things. Another thing I plan on doing is to just not be in stores. It reduces the temptation if I'm not at places like Target or any other store of the brands that I like. It should be easy right now, given the circumstances in the world right now with the coronavirus pandemic. We're all trying to stay isolated, and so we're all limiting our shopping trips anyway. In addition to this, I just want to shift my focus and be more intentional about what I do with my time. As I mentioned in my no spend year reflections, I had a lot more time when I wasn't shopping, and I just need to be intentional with what I do with that time instead of doing some negative or unhealthy practices like shopping or watching Netflix or whatever it might be. I want to focus more on creativity, maybe writing, making these videos, just doing creative things. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, I would really like to learn how to deal with difficult or stressful circumstances in my life in a more healthy way, and focus on journaling and meditation and prayer, focus on these things that help me to process feelings instead of just stuffing them. Thank you for watching my video today. I appreciate you taking the time to do so. If you liked this video, I would appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing. Thanks. Have a great day. See you next time. Bye.